Welcome, everyone, to another episode on mental well-being, where we dive deep into many dimensions on mental well-being. My name is Rifki, and today we are tackling a very vital topic, a very sensitive topic in some angles. That's the difference and challenges in mental health for men and women. I got Evridiki Liiaki, who is a renowned psychologist, to help us through and to help us understand what's best and how to tackle these challenges, and are there really challenges is what we need to understand first.
Yes, Rifki, first of all, nice to meet you and thank you so much for your invitation. That's always an honor and joy to be able to see you again and interact with you. I'm here in Qatar, as you know, for the last 10 years. I've been doing health and mental health consulting, working as a psychologist as well. I'm the head of HWW Global, which is a community initiative for mental health, promoting mental health. And the organization itself, it's here in Qatar since 2009 as a community initiative. So we've been in the region for many, many years. Happy to support also and be part of, the Qatar Vision 2030 and all the work that has been done with health and mental health in Doha. And that is briefly about me.
All right, thank you so much. I think there's a lot more to it, and I'm sure that the viewers will find your profile on the description on this video that we uploaded. Okay, so we'll start with the definition. What is meant by mental well-being?
Yes, I want to give you some interesting definition and not something by the book as to, to keep things updated and interesting. I would just start to say that mental well-being is also physical well-being. So I want that we come out of this definition that we separate mental well-being from the physical well-being, because now World Health Organization, all the serious medical health systems, they talk about psychophysical health. So it's one thing, our health is one thing, and a big part of it is the mental well-being. And without it, we cannot have health. There's no health without mental well-being. Why? Because now we know, we have statistics, we have evidence-based articles and scientific research for years and years, at least for more than 30 years, of how mental health is affecting our physical health. So these things are together, and we have to keep that in consideration when we talk about mental well-being. And then again, when it comes to my specialty as a health psychologist, we are trained to work to have diagnosis and treatment plans. When we're talking about mental health, we have something that we call the biopsychosocial model of health. When we talk about health in general, we're always investigating health holistically: the biological health, the psychological health, and the social health. Where are we? We are in a loving and respectful environment that we feel good and etc. So this is briefly again to tell you an interesting definition there.
Thank you so much. The way you speak actually generates a lot of thought. It generates a lot of ideas, and I'm trying my level best to stay on the course. I think this would open up more topics later on. So the whole conversation that we're going to have today is understanding the challenges and the differences between men's mental well-being and women's mental well-being. So if you look at women by nature, multitasking, that is done beyond expectation, and it's a 24-hour cycle, from waking up, taking care of the kids, taking care of the family, looking after the house, then heading off to work, managing so many things at work, and then the emergencies from in between. I mean, there's no better way to explain this. So I would like to hear from you, what are the key challenges when it comes to women's mental well-being?
Oh my God, as you said, now we can speak for hours.
Yeah.
But what we can say when it comes to research, published research and statistics, to see also what has come out from big statistics and samples that we have, because of all these roles that you described, the multitasking, there is a lot of stress that translates into psychosomatic disease, autoimmune disease. So we have now the results and statistics that show not only the challenges, but the end result of the challenges. So I'm going to take you to the end results now. I don't want to do that and like upset any people,
Yeah.
I mean, the challenges are there. Everybody knows that that women have challenges, but at the end of the day, shall we allow this path to continue that ends up in psychophysical disease, psychosomatic disease, and autoimmune disease? And this is where I want to highlight a little bit, because we all know it's normal, the challenges, yes. This is the women's nature. They feel like they are like superwomen. But what we want to stress is the end result of it. That we don't want our women, the female population of this earth, to now, as we have statistics, we keep on also losing early on because they have sometimes genetic diseases that because of stress are being triggered, creating psychosomatic and autoimmune disease. So we just want to highlight also the end result of the challenges.
So what I'm trying to get at right now is we have women who are part of our audience. It's not comfortable for them to speak to anyone about it because of the fear of being misjudged, because of the fear of their partners misunderstanding, their employers, their colleagues misunderstanding. And I'm saying this with a lot of experience because like I'm from the HR side. So when we work in companies, we are quite conscious as to how we approach and how we can facilitate certain things, but then remembering that if word gets out, somebody's depressed or has anxiety, that becomes a controlled matter. So how do we deal with this? What are your tips?
Just to keep it more specific, because also as an academic, when you ask me something, I'm always thinking of like the evidence and the the written like scientific evidence base that we have on everything, like in statistical results. Let's keep it for the Middle East. So thinking about being women who are working here in Middle East, everyday women, I would say that is very hard. And I'm going to be very honest here with you that even if you work in HR, that most of the companies, there is some kind of fear for them. I'm not here to blame the HR or the companies or anyone. But in general, the energy is the energy of fear that, as you said, I shouldn't be acting in any vulnerable way to let anyone know. So we have to stress that this is true. What you're saying, it's happening. So this, by having this condition, we're having women who are not actually reaching out to get support. If it's like, let's say, stress, throughout the years it becomes chronic stress, it can be depression, it can actually become anxiety also, it can be their PTSD. Then it's reaching to my specialty that we are doing research on psychosomatic disease and autoimmune. This is how things are moving when it comes health-wise. It's very difficult, and I'm really sorry to say that because I see that in the region a little bit more than other international big organizations in US or UK, or let's say NHS is very open now talking about vulnerability and mental health. But we still have a lot of work to be done. Things are being done. Things are changing as we speak. I was in a workplace well-being conference in Riyadh in Saudi recently, and this is what we all gathered to discuss and talk, how we can change the culture so we can allow these women to talk openly and feel free to reach out to people that they can trust and create like more, let's say, trusted well-being cultures that maybe HR people also involved to be able to support having open conversations about these things, because we need these women to be productive. So if companies and HR and work that needs to be done support these women to feel better, we have better performance, better profitability, more productive people. This is what we all need. I mean, and the companies, this is what they need. So it's for all our, benefit to get into all this well-being culture in a sustainable, manner as well. Not just to have one or two well-being programs per year, but we need to have sustainable programs, create and sustain a well-being workplace culture, that there are people that inside the organization who will promote and sustain this, so women, like as we speak, will be able to feel better, to continue to be productive, to feel at home in their organization environment. Then they can be productive, they can be happy, you have good performance, they can support the profitability targets and everything.
Yes, that is very true.
Yes.
We actually did a program on mental well-being and incorporating into the corporate culture, and that was launched, I think, somewhere around last year. I'll put the link to our viewers on that. So thank you very much for that. That's allowing us to transgress onto the other side. Let's talk about the mental well-being challenges that men have. Statistically speaking, men are very, very reluctant to talk, unlike women. Women, then they find someone who's trustworthy, someone they can go to, they can open up. They can cry it out, they can speak it out. But men are very reluctant, and they also experience high rates of depression and anxiety. Is there any truth to this?
Yes. Yes, in general, there is a lot of truth, and lately we have evidence-based again articles that are written here in Qatar, from Qatar University, for example, that are connecting in general mental health with morbidity, with death rates, with psychosomatic disease, etc. So in general, we know that this is true, but for men particular, again talking about Middle East, and not necessarily Arab men, but also, we have a huge number of Indian, for example, men in the country as well, because I had a good fair share of doing therapy and work with men the last few years, I would say that in some cases things are even worse than women. Like the things that I've seen, that I have experienced, the women can go out of work and find the cousins and find the friends and talk about things. So at least there is some kind of communication and opening up to release all this pending stress or sorrow or anger that needs to be released, doesn't end with psychosomatic disease. Now, men, as I see, even in very young ages, the way that they are raised and the upbringing is to bolt everything inside, not to express, not to show vulnerability, not to cry. For me, as a health psychologist that I'm dealing with psychosomatic disease and I'm reading statistics, it's the worst thing that can do for their health. That even if we have statistic women who are susceptible for psychosomatic disease and autoimmune, I see them like going faster to this position of actually being in danger of psychosomatic disease and other diseases because they are taught not to show vulnerability, not to release, not to say. And they don't talk with their friends. They don't talk, most of them. Okay? So this is a big issue. This is what I realized. And it's mainly because of their upbringing. This role model or, how it is to be a male, especially in the Arab culture, that you have to be strong and stand strong and, be the provider. That it's coming against the vulnerability opening up. When we have like crisis management in relation to mental health in organizations or corporations, there are people who either they suddenly get a burnout because of all this hard work that they've been not addressing it for so many years that something becomes at the end of the day a burnout. And when we're talking about burnout and men that I've seen, it's when the body psychologically and physically you shut down. The body is telling you, halas, like I cannot, I force myself, I tired myself psychologically and physically that I don't want to move anymore. This is what I see with men. I'm 10 years in the area. I've never experienced that with other populations. I'm a European myself. I'm Greek. I was in the UK for many years, 7 years. I haven't seen that so immensely how men here in the Arab culture a little bit. So it's a bit of a cultural thing as well.
Thank you very much. I've been trying to convince a lot of managements in my past about mental well-being and the importance of having it a budget alone and then doing mental well-being programs just because we have something for PR work, for PR reasons, for employee engagement reasons, employer branding reasons is not enough. Because once you have a mental well-being program strategy, you need to include sensitivity training for it because we spend most of our lives in office, at least 9 to 10 hours a day, 8 hours a day minimum. If you and I are working in the same office, if I am sensitive trained, I would know what to say, how to speak in front of you, how to pull back, how to move forward, and not to react to different moods that our colleagues would have. Say, for an example, you had a bad start to the morning for whatever reason, and you come to office a little bit upset. And if I am to take that into account, that would make things worse. That would make the work culture, the relationship very, very bitter. It would add to stress and anxiety. So this whole component about the sensitivity training, letting people breathe, giving people the benefit of the doubt is very, very important. Relationship comes first rather than the promotion, rather than the transaction. The moment someone asks you, can you help me with this? The answer should be, yes, I can. And not, oh, how come you don't know this? That makes it very, very toxic. That generates this.
The one word, empathy.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And that definition, and that has to be backed with a lot of training so that people need to know. A lot of the times, the upper management, their behavior reflects. People find out whether it is a cosmetic program or whether the company actually believes it as part of their values. So that's from the HR side.
I mean, we cannot
And I
blame
hope
everything to HR. I mean, because I was in a conference
100%.
recently and a lot of people that were talking about HR. And we
Mm,
just have to say also that the roles of an HR office or an HR manager or a person, there's so many. Then again, when it related to well-being
mm.
workplace, we have to define that there should be one person in HR doing only that, not
Exactly.
doing
Yeah.
all the HR, like being responsible for everything in the workplace well-being
Mm.
and having the time and free time and empathy to look at people in the eyes and support them. Because HR, they are easier to go to burnout than all the others because of so many roles, not
Yeah,
sustainable.
very true. Employee engagement, mental well-being, learning and development are completely different roles.
Different.
But most of the companies, just to save on the budget, they all put
Yeah.
that into one. Actually, going back in your conversation, you spoke about your experience and the people who come to you for counseling and for support. Taking that into context, what advice can you share on our podcast for our viewers who are men and women to get over the stress, to get over the anxiety, to get over the depression?
Yes, I mean, we all, including myself, we should be in a compassionate self-awareness journey
Mm,
and want from within for all of us, like to care enough, to show enough self-compassion to ourselves to be into the self-awareness journey and know exactly where we are when it comes to our health. And then again, being able now we have AI also who is supporting a lot, and I'm not saying that it should be replacing therapy, but it can give us enough information for us to have what I mentioned before, our own holistic, healthy lifestyle that we should be evaluating every now and then to see where are we on a daily basis, like to be able to be present and mindful every day from the morning and say, where am I? Like, how is my body? How do I feel? What's happening in my environment? And by assessing this in a compassionate, again, I'm always saying way, not in a judgmental way that
yeah.
I judge myself, to be able to continue my progress. So
Mhm.
by staying into this holistic lifestyle on a daily basis, I have less opportunities for me to get into stress. Or if I can observe that I am stressed, then I know also how the body and the mind can find ways to release it. So if I also prevent my stress when it's in its initial stages, and I see one day I wake up and I say, oh my God, I'm ready to have a panic attack, or I'm breathing really fast from my chest and things are not doing well. I cannot sleep at night. When I am mindful and into this journey, I can observe it, I can prevent it, and it will not go where it's normally going, which is psychophysical disease, psychosomatic disease. So
Mhm.
all of us, we owe it to ourselves to be able to non-judgmentally and compassionately to observe ourselves on a daily basis and make these fine tunes depending on where we are, in which stage we
Right.
are. Now, if somebody already in chronic depression or chronic stress, I would, of course, suggest that they should look for some support. Not necessarily married to their therapist for years. No, I'm not
Mm.
into this. But to be able to get the advice that will support them to build this journey and being able to understand themselves better in order to be better on a daily basis. They can enjoy their lives and not
Yeah.
to live. And now there is also medication that they don't have the side effects that they had before. They're not as harmful as they are before. And in cases that they're emergency or chronic conditions, I would suggest a very good collaboration between a psychiatrist and a psychologist, that these two will be collaborating to support
Yeah.
this individual, maybe even a physician at some point, to bring this biopsychosocial health, as I said before, biologically, because sometimes depression or anxiety and stress could be also biological. I have people who don't they have lack of vitamin D and they have depression, and as soon as they take vitamin D, they feel better. We need to approach it holistically to be able, to have the knowledge to approach it holistically to support people as fast as possible to feel better and be able to like balance in their lives. And now AI is doing very well. There is a new chat GPT about health. There are new apps in relation to AI that are supporting as well. Hopefully they will not totally replace us because then we're gonna
Yeah.
be totally unemployed. But for the time being, we have everything we need to. And I'm really worried because there's not a lot of information in the region. People should look out for specialists, for people who really care about what they do and that can really holistically support them, and also with the support of AI. Right now, we have this. It's a huge privilege that we have AI, and the reason is that we can get so much
Mm.
faster the information we need for us to even live longer or to prevent the chronic diseases. So we need to have the willingness that we want to take care of ourselves. We
Yes.
have to take initiative on a daily basis that I deserve, that I am in a good health, and I do research about it, and I follow my schedule and my self-care. So this is very
Yeah.
important as well. I want people to be more independent, so they don't need so many doctors, they don't need me, and etc.
Thank you very much for that, Evridiki. That has a lot of content for our viewers to understand and to absorb and to reflect. That's very, very important. The other part that we see, which is a challenge which people don't speak about, or rather they fear, is the stigma and a way to move forward, which is what prevents them. When somebody finds out that, okay, I approached Evridiki as a patient, as someone who needs support to get some counseling, and someone finds out, that becomes an issue. So how do people move forward? How do we encourage them to visit the psychologist and then to visit the psychiatrist if they have? I mean, you clearly explained the combination between the two, but if you can just summarize it and give them tips on how to make that first step forward.
I don't want to be sound biased, but sometimes the culture it is, and I just want to mention that the culture is making this so difficult by creating as going to the psychologist as something which is biased and stigma. And I'm always saying, and this is one of the things that maybe that would be helpful for your question, is like we need to be able to change the culture. And when it is that I feel sadness, chronically sadness, for example, I should go to a psychologist. Psychology, it's a Greek word that means psych, which means soul, and be able to rest my soul, to find peace in my soul. Why would that? It's different than when I hurt my knee. Why is this different? I'm always telling people, when I hurt my knee, I go to my orthopedic. Why then it's an issue that when there is a heart pain? Why it's an issue that when there is like stress? And this is my intense way of telling them, come on, let's snap out of it.
Yeah.
We are in 2026. There should not be any bias and stigma. Like I'm
True.
telling you these things now, and I think it's a little bit the blood is raising in my head. It's 2026, you know what I mean? 2026. Why is it there is a difference? Why there should still be a difference? Because at the end of the day, and this is what I'm telling scaring people, the ones that feel deep in their core the bias and the stigma, they're the ones that they end up in hospital, and then I go and I see them in hospitals. They're
Yeah,
the
yeah.
ones that see them in hospitals. So since we've seen all these people in hospitals with psychosomatic disease, with autoimmune, and I have many cases in my family as well, because we have the gene of cancer, and it was the people that were stressed and in sorrow chronically that ended up with the gene of cancer triggering and having cancer. I have seen the whole picture of it.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we just have to find a way. Maybe more people like me should come out and give everybody the statistics and how many people end up in hospitals, and show them some nice pictures and videos of all these people, that I go and I visit in hospitals, or when I collaborate with psychiatrists and neurologists and physicians or psychosomatic disease that people they cannot solve, or autoimmune disease that nobody knows what it is, that is stress related as well. Then maybe some people will wake up and they will go early. The sad thing again is that a lot of people are coming to me when they reach to this point. Because of this bias and stigma you discussed before, they're coming to their breaking point. They're coming where the psychosomatic disease hits and the autoimmune disease hits because of the bias and the stigma. The end result should make us think that halas. And I think it should start from schools, it should start from the Ministry of Health, that there should be campaigns, there should be psychoeducation, there should be people out there screaming and shouting like me. You know what I mean? Telling them what's going to happen to them because of the bias and stigma. It's very disturbing for people like us. I'm doing my second year in my PhD. I'm into health psychology since 2019. I've been studying and looking at statistics, and we have statistics of people who actually die because of psychosomatic disease and autoimmune. So when you see that we are now connecting, when we're talking about health and mental health with morbidity, with death rates, like you can actually reach yourself to the dying bed. That's why I'm Melissa, and I'm really sorry for this, the
No, that's fine.
intensity.
No, you have to. I mean, because this is a very serious matter, and that's one reason why we have this podcast. And this is one of many podcasts that I have launched. This also feeds into HR a lot because of the connection to livelihood. And under leadership training, yes, empathy is part of it. But end of the day, empathy is mental well-being. Peaks at it in a very high level. We talk about EQ, we talk about IQ, but then we don't stress enough on the IQ. We don't see the connection between IQ, how it feeds into leadership development, and how leaders have to take a step back when approaching people, looking at the human cost of the decision they make. I mean, some leaders do. Then from the HR side of it, I have witnessed cases where when this employee has had cases of depression, but then that becomes the lens that HR sees that employee through. When a second incident happens after a year or after 2 years, oh, wait a minute, this person had a depression, this person had a breakdown in office. It's like, oh, maybe this person is continuing. I've heard very, very senior people say, oh, this person has a bipolar disorder. One person, in the morning, she's happy, and in the evening, he is sad or angry. I was like, wait a minute, you are head of sales. How you cannot diagnose somebody as bipolar? You're not a psychologist. I was like scratching my head. No, this can't happen. A lot of people love to be psychologists. They love to be psychiatrists. Reading a book, watching a few movies, they think they're experts. That level of education, that level of training has to be built into an orientation program. It has to be built into the corporate world. It has to be built into every single leadership program starting immediately, if not 10 years ago. Yeah. Like the beauty of Qatar is the Qatar government, Ministry of Public Health, has started the initiative on mental well-being through Gulf Good Vibes. I'm part of the program and I volunteer with them. And there is also a hotline. I think you and I are both aware, and I'd like to share this with our viewers. For those who are watching this from Qatar, there is a number 16000, which is a Ministry of Public Health helpline. I'll repeat the number again. It's 16,000, 16000. The helpline is open from Sunday to Thursday, from 7 in the morning to 6 p.m. in the evening, and this is answered by mental health professionals. This number is not an emergency response line. It's only when you need someone to talk to. It's free of charge. You can call them, listen to you, or they can reach out to Evridiki over here. We'll put her contact details at the bottom, or any preferred psychologist that people feel comfortable with. This is a very sensitive topic and this is a very important topic, and I don't want anyone to disregard this, whether it's men or women. I would like to leave the rest of the closure to you, Evridiki.
Yes, thank you. First of all, thank you again that you invited me. It's a great honor to be in this series of so important talks, as you said. The topic is very important, as I said before. Why? Because mental health has to do also with our physical health. So it's health in general that includes, it cannot exist without our mental health. So health, our physical health. So, and I just wanted to stress that because a lot of people, they differentiate between mental and physical, or when they think of health, they don't include necessarily mental health. So we just have to make sure that we cannot be healthy without our mental. So for us and the workplace environments, for us as individuals, I would just ask for people to feel free to reach out. As you said, this hotline is free. There's also non-profit organizations in Qatar, Qatar Crescent, another Qatar charity, and other organizations who they do also support and they give free psychological support. So there are out there people that can help them. So we want them to feel free at any point before things become chronic to reach out and ask for support. This is all from my side.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge, your expertise, your wisdom, and your experience. We wish you all the very best with your PhD. And if you need any help with support surveys, please reach out, and I'll be happy to help as a person as well. We will have your details at the bottom on the description so that our viewers can log into your website, get in touch with you. And I encourage everyone to click like, subscribe, share, and comment with your questions, clarifications, if there are things that you didn't understand, so that myself and Evridiki can both answer. We wish you all the very best in your journey towards a better mental health. Thank you very much. Goodbye.